Okay, so welcome everybody to this week's episode of the Financial Advisory Webinar Series. For those of you who don't know me, that is myself. I am Tanya Hiltz, a certified professional bookkeeper and founder of Cloud Bookkeeping Services and Tanya's Bookkeepers Bootcamp. And here's a little bit about me. I am not going to go through all of this, and most of you I know are names that have been here in all of these, so we'll just go quickly, and if anybody wants to continue reading, they certainly can. So just a couple of the more recent ones is I actually was or did win the IPBC, which is the Institute of Professional Bookkeepers of Canada. I did win as the 2019 Professional Leader of the Year just last month, I think it was. We've got our Bookkeepers Bootcamp, which qualified for continuing education credits in 2018, that was a pretty big deal. And as well, we were into its Global Firm in the Future for 2018 and the Canadian runner-up for 2017. And we were also voted, or won, I guess, to be one of Practice Ignition's top 50 women in accounting worldwide for 2018. So that was a pretty big deal as well. And then there's a few other things that, again, you can certainly feel free to read through on your own time. Continuing education credit. So this webinar has been submitted for continuing education credit. There will be 2 polls that must be answered in order to qualify for the credits. The recording of the webinar, along with any resources and slide decks and whatnot that will be provided to us, will be sent out within 2 days. And certificates for the credits will be emailed within 2 weeks of us receiving approval. They are a little behind right now, just simply due to timing and, with getting together. Usually the committee only meets monthly, and they did not want to approve these in advance, just in case if something happened and, they had to cancel out. So I think we're still waiting on some in September and October. So hopefully they'll all be approved very shortly. I'll be submitting right after this one. Actually, I'll be submitting them because there won't be any more through the month of October. So hopefully we'll be receiving them back, because I think they actually meet later this week. So we'll be receiving credits. And of course, when you guys do get them, you'll get a bunch through. And then again, the next batch will have to wait. So don't worry, I still have the lists. You're still on them. Okay. And oh my goodness, this is Futrli. I'm so sorry. I'll just very quickly update this.
Right.
Oh my goodness, it was one of those weekends. That's all I have to say. It was one of those weekends, and I was supposed to come in and do a bunch of work, and yeah, that didn't happen. So we'll move this. Look at that, it's very big over there. I'm so sorry, guys. We'll make it real big, and we're gonna black this out and make this red. And then pretend none of that, oops, there we go, even better, highlight. Pretend none of that happened. So today we are fortunate enough to have, now how's it actually pronounced? Futrli?
Oh, no one can pronounce it, but yeah, Futrli.
Futrli. Okay, because I keep trying to pronounce it for chili, and
most people do. Most people do. That's fine.
Okay, Futrli. So there we go. And again, nice big logo to make up for the fact that last week's was still there. And
thank you.
Yes. All right. So we have Richard and Danny, and I am going to let them take it away.
All right. Okay. Awesome. So just going to get my screen sharing up for you guys, so you'll be able to see. Thank you.
And actually, while we're waiting for Richard to load his screen, I just wanted to say to Tanya, thank you so much for inviting us on this advisory program. I know that all of you are learning lots, and I hope week after week you're finding new and insightful things that you're learning with each one. So hopefully we can share some of our wisdom with you today as well.
Okay, so you guys can all see what I'm sharing now, yeah?
Yep, we sure can.
Okay, awesome. So today we're going to talk about being your best advisor with Futrli. So there's a few things that we're going to be going through, but before we get into any of it, we'll just quickly talk a little bit about who we are. So my name's Rich, as Tanya said, and I am in the education team here at Futrli. And this to my left.
We are sat next to each other if it looks like we just keep looking at no one.
Hi.
I'm Danny. I work in the sales team here at Futrli. So for the last 2.5 years, I've been working with accountants, bookkeeping, partners of ours to make sure that they're taking their advisory journey right from the start all the way to whichever goals that they're looking to achieve. So between us both, you've got a nice mixture of different advice and different knowledge coming at you over the next hour or so.
Yeah, so as Danny mentioned, Futrli's worked really closely with advisors from across the world, mainly to begin with in Australia and the UK, but we do have lots of partners in America, Canada, South Africa, and stuff as well. So you may have heard of a product. Originally, it was just called Futrli, which was specifically built for advisors to help their clients with things like bespoke reporting and forecasting. So that's been our kind of main offering until recently. But we're in the process now of building and launching a series of new products called the Futrli platform. So that's what we're going to be sort of introducing today, is the first part of the Futrli platform. And Futrli platform is designed to help small businesses across the world deal with the various problems or pains that they encounter as running a small business. So running small businesses is still very difficult. There's still a large failure rate and dropout rate for some of these companies. And even with all the new technology and cloud accounting and receipt scanning and all these other things, which I'm sure you guys have seen make a change in the sort of accounting and finance industries, that number of who's kind of successful and who's not hasn't really changed. So despite those advances, these advances haven't seen the impact that we really thought that they would. And that really got us thinking as to why. So that's where the Futrli platform comes in. It's designed to help clients with a lot of those pains. So it does a lot of this using AI and machine learning to analyze your financial history, essentially, and your financial present, and gives businesses tools that they need to kind of improve and master their financial future. So that's a little bit about who we are. I'm going to quickly talk about what we're going to be talking about today. So if you guys can, if this is in the way, I'll hide my face out the way so you guys can see what I'm sharing. So we're going to be talking about Flow. Flow is the first product in the Futrli platform. So we're going to go over what Flow is, who it works for, how it works, how it can help advisors, and then we'll quickly touch on what's coming next as well. Now, if you guys have questions at any point as we're going through this, either about just in general, like about what we're talking about, or specifically about Flow, the software, which we'll run through in a bit, just fire away, and we'll either pick them up as they come, or if we don't, we'll jump back into them we'll jump back into them at the end. So what is Flow then? Before we get too deep into this, I am going to give you guys a tour of the actual product itself, but just before that, I want to quickly give an overview of what Flow is all about. So Flow, as you might have guessed from the name, this is all about cash flow. So all about helping businesses get to the heart of their cash flow in and out. Now, you guys, as advisors and bookkeepers, probably encounter a lot of clients who either struggle with their cash flow or they struggle to track and manage cash flow. One of the things that we've experienced really heavily over the last couple of years of our research is that for a lot of companies, they're at a stage where maybe they don't feel confident enough to, or they don't have the resources to actually dedicate to something like truly understanding your cash flow. You know, they might know where they're spending some money, or they might know who their clients are and how much they're paying them, but they don't really look at those two things in combination, or they often lack the kind of full picture of their cash position. So what Flow is all about is about helping businesses, so your guys' clients, the end users, about helping them to really dive deep into their own finances and understand things in a way that makes sense to them. So it's designed to be used by the small business user at the end. So it's not a system of complex calculations and lots of working out, you know, like some of our previous product, Future Advisor, is a super powerful sort of forecasting reporting engine, but it's not going to work for everybody. It's brilliant for advisors, and you guys can check it out if you want. Go to futrli.com and you can set up a trial of that. But it's something that requires that initial amount of understanding and expertise. Now, Flow and the Futrli platform, the other parts of this, which will be coming down the line, are designed to be totally accessible. So those businesses who you guys deal with, who perhaps you will have certain clients who are just all about compliance. They're not yet ready, or they don't have the funds to be paying for like those more in-depth advisory services. And this is what Flow is all about from the accountants and the advisor point of view. It's a tool to kind of protect and engage your clients. So investing in them, helping them to understand more about their money and understand more about how they're receiving and spending. And that's going to help them improve things down the line. So we'll go through this in more detail, but just a quick glimpse at some of this stuff that Flow is all about. Helping clients understand where their money's coming going from, how long they take to get paid on average, things like that. Really drilling deep into their customers' records and histories, things like customer dependencies, spending trends, whether things are going up or down, average payments, all of that kind of stuff. Understanding risk, grading of invoices, things like that. And it's all done, you'll see, it's all done in a way that's really quick and easy. There's no legwork to actually start learning this stuff. One of the things that we wanted to address with this is there are lots of great tools out there for helping businesses improve, manage, track, etc., their finances. But most of those require some amount of sort of prerequisite understanding, some amount of expertise or training, whether that's spending a couple of hours on a website learning more about it, or whether that's, having qualifications or experience. And this is something that we're trying to completely change, is to make it so that anyone can use this. So from the advisor's point of view, if you set your clients up with Flow, you're not going to need to spend hours talking to them about how it all works. It's easy to use, it's straightforward, and it's kind of plug and play, really. So that's kind of what we're going to be talking about. So I'm going to hand you over to Danny again now, who's got our first question.
Thank you, Rich.
You're
and
muted.
Tanya,
Oh no, you're not muted. Sorry.
could you, run the poll? So
Yeah.
our poll is, and I'll just move the poll out the way so I can actually read the question. If time, resource, and money were not a limiting factor, would you be offering advisory services to all of your clients? So that's something that we speak to our partners about quite a lot. Usually that, time is a big factor, money is a big factor, engaging with the team is a big factor, and Rich touched on it earlier, but the reason that we built out the system in the way that we did was to try and limit those as much as we possibly could. So we'll run that question now. I can't see.
We've got 15, so we've 75% voted so far. So just a reminder that we do need, if you do want to receive your CEC credits, you do need to answer both poll questions. So we'll give a few more seconds here. Now, while, excuse me, we're waiting, there has been a question that's come up that would probably be a very quick answer. So that somebody's asked, so does Flow use indirect or direct cash flow?
So can I get that question? Where does it?
Oh, sorry, I just clicked on answered. So
okay.
sorry. Let me. Oh, I can't unanswer it. So I was Dominique's, the third one down under the answered column.
Okay.
Does
cool.
Flow use direct or indirect cash flow?
So it's basically what it does is, in terms of how we work all of this stuff out, like where the numbers and stuff come from, it's done based on, so at present we integrate with Xero and QuickBooks, and it takes all of the data there from the Invoices API. So looking at your invoices, your bills, and payment days and stuff like that.
Perfect.
So it's looking at, basically, it's your past cash flow history, which from your invoices, your bills, your time to pay, all your supplier and customer data, and then using that information to build up patterns, notice trends, to see what kind of common things there are, or where there's room for improvements, where there's things which either take too long to get paid, or you're spending loads of money with this customer, but you're paying them too soon and you're taking too long to get paid, and these kind of things. So it's really building that picture up. It does, of course, mean that people need to have up-to-date records with stuff like their online accounting and bookkeeping. So it's all pulled through from there. Yeah,
and we're learning that bad data will create, bad cash flow, bad forecast, bad reports. It's, all of that very inaccurate.
That's one of the things which, unfortunately, I don't think that we're going to be able to solve that problem. I'm sure you guys have all got clients. I worked in accounting myself for quite some time before coming here, and often that was the biggest issue. Was to actually, in order to help these clients, in order to give them advice or to guide them or to make improvements and sort things out for them, you're relying on them to give you information. Now, Flow and the Futrli platform unfortunately doesn't solve that problem, but actually what we're trying to do here is to form habits, and you'll see how this works with Flow when we jump into it in terms of the kind of news feed that you have. Further down the line, there's going to be stuff like sort of rewards for repeated use and things to kind of encourage people to be more active, I guess. So unfortunately, we're not going to be able to solve that problem, I don't think, but we're looking at lots of ways that we can encourage that kind of staying up to date and repeat use. Because in order to benefit from Flow and from Futrli platform, you really need to be as up to date as possible. All right, so it looks like we've got our answers back. So I don't know if I'll hand back over to you guys.
Thank you. Yeah, so it's really interesting. I'm assuming that you guys can't see that. So we've got 94% of you guys have said yes. One person said not sure. Nobody said no. So that's really interesting. I think when we work with a lot of our new partners, we always ask that question just to start off with. So it sounds like, I think from the fact that you guys are here alone, that obviously tells us something that you're looking to get into this space if you're not already. But actually, that's a really interesting answer that you've all given. So thank you so much for sharing that. I'm going to talk to you a little about how we can go about limiting some of those resources and those charges and those costs so that you can actually move into this space in a really seamless and efficient manner. So we can go through that in just a moment.
Do you want me to move on?
Yes, Rich, if you could move.
Yeah.
Thank you. We're both handling the slide deck as a two-part plan. So I wanted to jump in and talk to you guys before Rich showed you this is a little bit about the strategy in which we employ and how we work very closely with our accountants and bookkeepers, what we call our advisors, and how we help them, I guess, either move into this space and move into the advisory space, the added value space, or actually how we start it from and build up and streamline their service. So I think there's sort of two main parts that we see from our clients. So the first part is either you may be using Excel, you might be using some kind of reporting system, and you're looking for a more streamlined process, a more direct process, a process that you can employ across the entire client base, or for a lot of other people it's a brand new space for you, and you're looking to increase your revenue, you're looking to drive your client adoption, you're looking to drive your client engagement, and actually how do we get that in place. So I think the first thing that we need to address is that Flow is really, really simple to use. I know that Rich talked earlier about how we have used a system called Advisor for many years. We've been in the market for 5 years. And our partners know that system inside out, but there's a lot that goes into it. There's a lot that you have to do ahead of speaking with a client. It's a hugely, hugely capable platform, and if anyone wants any information on that platform, we can certainly give it to you. But it does require time to set up beforehand. So before you go and speak to a client, before you know, sometimes before you even know that you're going to get revenue from these conversations, you have to build out this project, and you have to dedicate time and money and energy to doing that. So what we've done is built out a system whereby it does the majority of the heavy lifting for you. So we had to keep it really, really simple. And that's exactly what we've done. The next bullet point I want to talk about is that Flow is for all teams, regardless of financial experience. So I think perhaps you've all got varying, size teams, and you have different skill sets within your teams, and you've got different makeup of your teams. But actually, we built out a platform with one focus in mind when it comes to the team, and that's that anyone can have a conversation with a client about what they're seeing in Flow, and anyone can interact with a client and help them. I think long gone are the days of just the top people within the firm, or if you're a one-person band but you've got someone assisting you on the a couple of days a week, it would be great for you all guys to be able to have those conversations with those clients. Now sometimes the skill set is not there, sometimes actually you've got members of the team who just don't want to do that, and that's absolutely fine, but it shouldn't come down to knowledge. It should come down to, for those people in your team that actually want to have those conversations with the clients, they actually can, and it's not based on knowledge, it's based on the desire, and they want to have those conversations with the client. I think that's a big part of the advisory journey as well. The third bullet point down, it says flows for firms who want to offer advisory and added value services to their clients. And this is a big thing. I think we're in an age now where I think it might be different in where you guys are in Canada, but in the UK it seems that the firms over here are going sort of one or two ways. They're either looking at compliance work and they're looking at volume, or they're looking at becoming an added value practice. And added value means a lot of different things to a lot of different people. And advisory, again, is another word that means a lot of different things to a lot of different people. But deciding for you guys what that means for you, and what that means in terms of engagement, and what that means in terms of the regularity that you speak with your clients, the prices that you charge your clients, the tiers that you operate on within your client portfolio. This is a tool to service all of those requirements. So building up right from scratch and building out that framework. I think as well, you know, you've looked at a lot of different systems over the last few weeks, which is brilliant. But also remember that that's just one piece of the puzzle. You can look at a lot of different systems, you can interact with a lot of different tools, but actually it's the framework that you build in-house, the conversations that you're having with the clients, the feedback that you're giving them, that framework is the most important. And then the tool is there to essentially just back you up. So we do a lot of work with our partners around that sort of framework and that strategy and that roadmap. And then our tool is there designed to sort of plug in at the end and pull through the numbers that they need in order to offer those services and offer those reports, those conversations with the clients there as well. On the fourth bullet point, it says flow is for your clients who want to learn more about and improve their finances. And this is really, really the key. So our current system that we have, Advisor, was built out for accountants, so built out for our accounting partners in order for them to use internally and then present to the client. Where we've changed with Flow and where we've changed with our new platform is that it's really, really for the client to understand. So the language that we've used is really simple, as Rich is going to show you in a moment. Everything's very clean, everything's very concise, and it's designed to be easy enough for your client and the business owner to pick it up and run with it. And then the idea being that they come back and ask you questions, but they're coming to you with educated questions. They're coming to you with, you know, strategic questions. So when we're talking about doing a lot of that heavy lifting, a lot of that heavy lifting had to come from those initial educational pieces, which we believe we've done, and we've done to great success from the metrics that we've seen so far. So that's one thing to keep in mind as we're going through, that this is a tool that you're meant to look at with your client. They're meant to understand and absorb this information as well. And finally, I've put Flow is a way to introduce advisory services, and that's absolutely it. When I mentioned just before about doing that sort of the first piece of the puzzle, which is that client education piece, they need to be at a certain level for them to understand exactly what's going on within their business. And then you can look at offering things like, you know, cash flow forecasting, management reporting packs, ongoing consultancy work, but actually how do we interact with those clients in that initial stance? How do we get them interested? How do we get them bought in and seeing the value in offering advisory services?
Okay, awesome. So yeah, one of the big things that Danny touched on there, which I'm going to kind of go into in a bit more detail in a moment, is really looking at the sort of setup and the sort of onboarding of this. Now, as Danny mentioned, one of the key things with Flow and with Futrli platform, especially from the advisor's point of view, we kind of need to think of it like this. End clients can set up themselves. So if I'm a business owner, I can join Flow. I can get set up and I can start using it. Now, the other side of that is that advisors can set their clients up on it and introduce them to it there. So one of the real big things here is, from the advisor's point of view or from the accountant's point of view, there isn't that long-winded sort of setup process. It's basically you connect to your client accounting software and you pull through the data. Now, once that initial setup has been completed, that's it. From the advisor side, you've got the initial setup, you invite your clients to it, and it's then essentially self-sustaining. Now, the really great thing there is that the client experience when they're brought on board is that it's explained to them. You know, we're welcoming them into the software, we're telling them what it's all about, we're telling them how they can use it and how it can help. So we'll see that in a bit more detail. But yeah, that's one of the things I really wanted to make sure is clear, is the way that this is set up. As Danny mentioned, as I mentioned, I'm probably hammering the point home too much, but the real key here is in the ease of getting started. Now, the research and stuff that we've done, and obviously just, you know, understanding what people's previous histories with various bits of software is, no one wants to spend ages getting set up. No one wants to spend ages filling in all of this information and populating all of these fields in order to get anything useful. And we'll see in a minute how it works with Flow. But the idea is that you fire it up, you dive in, you can start learning more about your business in seconds. There's no big onboarding piece. There's no long-winded process to start actually doing something useful. So let's actually have a look at this. Let's take a look at what we're talking about. So I'm just going to, I might mess this all up now, but hopefully I won't. Let's see. Just swapping over here now. So I'm going to jump into a flow account. Now, this is just demo data. Don't worry, we're not sharing any any financial secrets here. So this is what we call a action feed. Now, I mentioned a little bit about the sort of behavior forming stuff and how we kind of try and get this to be a regular thing for clients to do. A big part of that is these action feeds. Now, action feeds function a lot like the news feeds, you know, from stuff like LinkedIn, Facebook, etc., etc. You know, people like to scroll, and the action feed is basically a way that you can scroll through the big ticket things that are happening with your business. Now, at the moment, as I said, Futrli platform is a multi-product piece. So at the moment, we have Flow and we have the action feed. Now, when we scroll through, we're on the Flow action feed. You can see the little icon here indicates that these are notifications from Flow, the first product. Now, further down the line, once we have some other products in the suite, which we'll introduce you to briefly at the end, the idea here is that you could have 2 or 3 or 4 or however many different products, each looking at a different area of your business, whether that's forecasting, reporting, cash flow management, looking at your sales funnels and things like that. Each of these will have their own product, but each of those has their own notifications, their own posts, which are these sections here, and they will all pull through into a centralized feed. So if I'm a business owner, and let's say I'm using 1 or 2 or however many products, I just need to log into one centralized place, and I will get straight away when I come in there in the morning, I will see the top 10, 20, 30, whatever, most important items that are going on for my business that day or that week. So the idea here with the feeds is that it mirrors behavior, which all of your clients know about and all of your clients are commonly used to. You know, they're kind of scrolling through a news feed, keeping up to date, ticking things off as they go through. And that's what we're really trying to replicate with this. So our action feed here is showing us a wealth of information. This is set up with a Xero account, which we've done here. In order to actually set up an account and to connect to data, this can be done super quickly. You essentially name the organization. So we'll call this one Webinar Limited. And you then choose the product. At the moment, we just have Flow. And then you choose to authorize your connection. Connect to Xero or QuickBooks and choose the client from the list in there. As soon as you've done that, the client will end up in the organization and you'll be able to visit them. Now, from the advisor's point of view, you can set up your clients and then invite them from here. So I can invite my clients in, you know, enter their details. So I will invite Danny here, the wonderful Danny, who's going to help me out run my company. And the invitation process, nice and easy as well. We can invite people in. So I can choose to invite Danny in here as a guest. So the way that this would work, if you're operating this and inviting your clients, you can add them as a guest, and then you can choose what they would get access to. So this, of course, avoids any potential data worries and stuff like that. So if I wanted to add Danny and just share this company with her, that's all done. That will then fire off an invite for Danny. What we'll be able to share with you guys as well in the future, we'll be able to see, you can check out on our YouTube channels and things like this. You can see exactly what the clients will see when they get invited in. So imagine I'm the advisor, Danny's my client. I set up her record. I link to her Xero record or QuickBooks, and then I fire that invite. Now, once that invite is fired off, when that lands in Danny's inbox, all of the sort of surrounding information, all of the guidance showing her what to do, showing her how it works, we're going to be providing all of that. So if an advisor joins Futrli and introduces it to their clients, they're not stuck onboarding and setting up all these clients and taking all that time to get the ball rolling. You know, we take care of that sort of stuff. So that's how we bring people in. And a key thing here as well is that there is not a limit on how many users you can have for each organization. So if you were an advisor and you wanted to set up the whole team on a single Futrli account and all work together in there, and then you also had your clients who had maybe 4, 5, 6, whatever different people within that business who also want to have access, everyone can work together in the same workspace. We don't limit them on that. We don't say, oh no, only the account owner can access it. And it's all totally customizable. So you might have a client, or even within a partnership, you might want to have, okay, these 3 people will have access to all the data, all the organizations and the billing and stuff like that. And these 3 people will just have access to, you know, kind of read only and to answer questions or stuff like that, you know? So it's really customizable, flexible in terms of security, and the onboarding process, the setup process is super quick and easy. I'm not going to show you this right now, but when you land in the app and you create a new account, or you set up accept a new invitation, you also get a little in-app tour of the system to show you around, introduce to different areas, teach you what this is all about as well. So the idea being that you get a really nice welcome to this system. You're not kind of just dumped in here and, hey, what does all this stuff mean? Okay, that's really key for us in this. So as I said, we've got our action feed first of all. The action feed as well, it's something that all business end users, they can sign up and they can use the action feed part of this system totally for free. So the action feed is free for anyone who wants to use it. And that means that we can allow businesses, regardless of where they're at, you know, as I said, one of the reasons why not every single client you have will take you up on those top tier advisory services is partially because they don't know what they mean and stuff yet. You know, there's sometimes a lack of understanding or experience. And this is something that people can use for free to start learning about the business. Now, that does mean that there's a cutoff point. Your action feed is free, but then the other pages that we're going to look at, they will be kind of where those pro features will come in. So in the action feed, we have our snapshot on the left over here, which sort of gives you a picture of your current cash position. If everything outstanding was collected or paid up, we can see the average times to pay as well. So these are here just as a snapshot, as a high level kind of figure to look at. And one of the things that we find is that customers pay you and your time to pay suppliers is a really key metric that people don't often actually track and focus on. So this one here is right at the top in Pride of Place. So it really helps people to see gradual improvements or changes in there. Ideally, of course, you want to be collecting payment quicker than you're spending your cash. And things like that, which seem really simple to, I'm sure, you guys and to other people who've worked in the industry and stuff as well. Sometimes for small businesses, these are things which seem obvious, but they don't have a way to visualize them. And that's a big part of what we're trying to do here, is to make these things easy to see, you know, rather than needing to draw up the spreadsheet and to fire off Excel or whatever it may be. This is trying to just be easy to just glance at and you get to grips with. So our snapshot over here, in the middle, we have the actual feed itself. Now you can customize this a little bit. You can change how it shows, whether you want this kind of dual column display or whether you want it just singular. Now, when you mouse over stuff, you'll see that they kind of light up and different things happen. So my very first one here, these are priority ordered, as I mentioned. Now, when we talk about priority, what we're talking about is what has the most impact on your cash position. So for example, at the top, bit of scary data here. This is, as I said, it's just an example company. It's not real data. But the data that we've brought through from Xero shows that there are 94 overdue invoices now, totaling 22,000. That's obviously a fairly large amount. So the biggest item will be at the top. Now, as you see, like I said, we can mouse over it. This little call to action here will actually take us to the flow in section where we can see these invoices. We can click through them in here. And there's a few actions we can take with our posts too. So let's say that my team is working with me in here and I want to make sure that they check this or that they track this next week to see, hey, you know, okay, these invoices are important. Let's try and get that number down by the end of the week. I could pin this to the top, and then anyone else who checks out the action feed, they'll see that at the top of the page and it won't drop down if someone marks it as red or anything like that. You can mark things as red as well. So if something is more of a kind of notification to be aware of rather than something you want to track, that can be marked as red. We will also as well, as I said, we're kind of in that beta stage at the minute where we're just sort of finalizing this and rolling it out to the public. There are more features to come. There are more integrations to come. There are more ways that people will be able to use this to come as well. But End users can also copy posts, share them via email, do stuff like that. So if they wanted to share that thing that they've learned either with their team, or as Danny was talking about, okay, I've learned that maybe I'm running out of cash, or I've learned, as I said, this stuff is loaded up straight away once you're connected. So maybe I've learned within the first couple of seconds that, oh, okay, I take 10 more days to collect my payment than I do to pay my bills. That might be something that you not really visualized before. And probably straight away when I learn something like that, I'm probably going to get on the phone to my accountant and talk about, why does that matter? How can I make changes there? So these are the things that I want you guys to kind of think about is, if my client learns X, then that leads to Y, So I learn that my bills take too long to get paid, or I learn that I've got 2 or 3 clients who never pay me on time, but they're my biggest clients. What can I do? How can I make changes there? So it's really about looking at the different things in here, thinking about what action they take to trigger, or what action they trigger next. And that's why action feed, that's why we call it the action feed. So you can take action in here. You can go to Xero and look at this stuff in more detail. You can share it with your team. You can ask for help. You can ask questions. And that's how we really try and drive improvements, is by making sure that people can take action.
Yeah, and I think, sorry to interject.
No, go ahead.
I think that's a really interesting point when I was talking earlier about getting a conversation starter. And Rich also obviously touched on the fact that this action feed is totally for free, and this is a tool that you can get your clients completely for free. And what it's best designed to do is absolutely do that, is have those initial conversations. So as Rich was mentioning, as soon as it loads up, you're given a whole host of alerts that populate, and you can start, whether you're with the client or whether the client's on their own, you or they can start really analyzing and understanding what's going on. And it might be just snapshots now, but actually, do those snapshots relate to something else that needs looking at, or do they turn into more strategic conversations? Opportunity for you to increase revenue, opportunity for you to move that client into more of an advisory category. So these alerts are sort of the foundation of what we determine to be the start of an advisory journey that you're going to have with that client.
For sure. And as Danny was saying, the goal here, I think, for this sort of segment of your client base, who this is probably going to be most useful for, isn't going to be for those guys who are already engaged in that top level of advisory. Now, they might want to use it too, of course, because there's stuff to learn there. It's a nice, easy way to manage and check things. But the goal here is to, if you have 10, 20% of your clients who are paying you regular fees for in-depth forecasting, reporting, CFO work, that kind of real high level stuff, they can certainly get value here. They can probably learn some stuff, but the real benefit is going to be in the other 80, 90% of your client base, those guys who maybe aren't yet at the stage where they're willing to pay top dollar for those kind of services. Now, this is a gentle kind of nudge towards that stuff, because you start to learn, you start to see trends and patterns. And if they're in that stage where maybe they don't yet have the kind of confidence or the full understanding or the finances maybe to really kind of take that to the next level, this is a way to kind of gently introduce that, gently start to look at things that can be improved. There's no kind of hard bludgeoning them over the head with information. It's just a nice way to start learning about their business, and it's quite low key for them. As we said, there's a minimal effort investment. So by introducing this stuff to them, by kind of investing in their understanding, investing in their learning and learning more about their own business, that's going to set off those alarm bells to have those kind of questions, to have those chats with you, to really start to dig deep and learn more about their own money. And in turn, we've seen already with the partners that have been sort of using this in the early weeks, kind of previewing, is that it's a really great way to just engage with their clients. The big problem that this big bulk of clients has is that the advisors, the accountants, don't speak to them. Because they turn up once a year. How many of your guys' clients, I don't know if maybe we can ask some of you guys out there, like if you have a client base of 100 people, of that 100, how many do you speak to on a weekly or monthly basis? And when we ask these kind of questions in our initial research, we find that most advisors don't speak to their clients. You might not speak to some of them 6 months, 9 months, 12 months at a time. Now, of course, some of that is because they're, uncontactable and they go incognito and you never hear from them. But this is a way to address that problem. If you're not discussing these things with people, if you're not having those regular chats, they're never going to start taking you up on additional services, additional advice. So it's just a really great way to just have more conversations with your clients, to open more of a dialogue, to give those paths to kind of chat and interact. So,
yeah, and sorry,
go ahead, go on.
I think it's worth saying as well, you know, we've got, I think we've got 1,500 partners across the globe. So that's accountancy firms and bookkeeping firms that we actually work with. And, you know, we really did do our research. You know, we had a lot of partners crying out for this kind of application and this kind of tool. I think as you're, you know, going through this journey of looking at lots of different advisory tools and advisory systems, what we have to think about is the fact that, you know, really, really top level advisory might not be right for every single one of your portfolio. And we're probably talking a lot about, you know, how engaged with the rest of them. But that really, really is the focus here, and really sort of understanding, you know, at what level you need to be speaking with the clients. And this is just based on, you know, conversations that we've had with our partners over and over again. You know, they were crying out for a tool that did, you know, first of all, that initial piece of, you know, of education, as I keep mentioning, but also, you know, how do we drive those conversations in a way that they're actually going to find value in? Because that's the real key. You know, you can put a report down in front of someone, and you know, they might pay you for it, and they might really find that rewarding. But actually, how do we ensure that they, you know, see huge value in what you're providing to them, so that they do continue to pay and they do want to recommend you to their friends and their you know, their partners. So, you know, it's about really driving those genuine, you know, those genuine advisory led conversations, absolutely, but at making sure that we're of genuine support and help and guidance to the businesses that we're working with as well.
Of course. So this, as I said, this is the action feed. You can scroll down through it. You can see the wealth of different things that we can learn here. Now, some of these bar charts and stuff look a little bit silly, but that's just because, as I said, we're using just dummy data here so that we can show you guys this without getting told off. Now, within these, you can click into these and these will take you to either the flow in or the flow out pages. So this is where some of the real detail, the kind of nitty gritty stuff comes in. So first of all, we've got flow in. Flow in is all about your inbound cash flow. So giving you a range of customer and credit control metrics to really start to understand your clients. Now, of our partners and stuff out there, often we find that people's customers have some understanding of their clients. They know how often they bill them. They know who the main contacts there are. But they don't always know some of these things like average spends or amount of times they've paid you late or what their kind of average times to pay are. How much are you dependent on them? Again, each of these metrics, each of these things can also trigger further conversations. Okay, I'm too dependent on this client. What can I do about that? How can I mitigate that risk? Okay, this client is paying me later and later. How can I improve those things, right? So that's what this section is all about. It's looking at your inbound cash, understanding some really key metrics, things like average times to pay. So as we mentioned before, we explain things when you mouse over them. There's not guesswork involved. You know, the stuff in here is plug and play. It's designed to be simple. So flow in, first of all, we're looking at payment days. So average times to pay for each of your clients, looking at all your invoices in the last 90 days. So showing you, are you getting paid quicker or slower? Are there room for improvement, or are things looking good? Unpaid invoices, just some quick totals. Again, gives you a nice, easy way to, at a glance, understand where you're at. Now, some businesses are already doing all of this stuff. You know, some of these guys are already really focused on managing their finances and keeping tabs on things. But for those who aren't, or for those who would like for it to be easier, this is a quick way to see that kind of stuff. So you've got your invoice details here. You can use different metrics to prioritize or sort of filter them out. So if I want to see my clients based on who pays the most late or who has the kind of highest spends and stuff like that, you can filter all of those. From the invoices as well, we can click into a client to learn more about them. We can be taken to the stats page. We can also go back through their invoice history and see all of that stuff. And we as well get some nice little breakdowns to show us what they've been paying over the last years. On the average, how much do they pay, and the average times, all of that stuff as well. So a nice little look into the client's history. You can see, again, you know, average payments, giving us different metrics to see whether things are going up or down. We can see the risk presented by this client. So, you know, in terms of risk of late payment, running out of cash, that's something that actually businesses, especially small businesses in the early stages, these kind of things are huge to them. because if I'm 50% dependent on a customer and then they don't pay, that could literally ruin my business, right? That could cause me huge problems. So this is stuff that, as I said, they think about it maybe already, but they don't visualize it. They don't really take that in and really understand what it actually means. So stuff like this gives you a nice, easy way to really visualize and understand your customers. How dependent on them are you? How often do they pay you late? What amount is overdue? What's their historic lifetime spend? Are things going up or down? All of that stuff is here in the flow in page. So jump back in to my flow in page again. And I'll scroll down a bit more. You've got, again, some more charts and things to track totals overdue, cash in from invoices in recent times, previous year, and then a predicted collection based on what's already outstanding. So if you've got X amount of invoices due to be paid next month, we predict that based on the previous spending trends. So if your client tends to pay you on average of 25 days, then we'll predict the future payments to be collected at that point as well. So again, nice and easy to understand, nothing complicated there. It just gives them a nice, easy way to see what their expected cash will be in those times. The different metrics in here, these little graphs, this is pretend data, as I said, so it looks a bit funny with 0 new customers. But we can update each of these. They get a little explainer below as well, and we can see changes over time and go back and see how these things have changed. So high-level overviews into your customers, looking at totals, new customers, average sales. And then finally, down the bottom, you've got your customer ranking. So if I want to see which are my biggest clients, which are my smallest clients, I want to rank my clients by how long they take to pay me, by what their average spends are, by who owes me the most money, and how do I get that back, So like we said before, each of these things, each of these metrics, these charts, these modals that we see are basically offering the client a chance to learn something, a chance to see something which either, okay, great, that's good news, they're paying me more and more money, or that client who I knew was one of our biggest and best, actually they're always on time, they always pay in less time than is asked of them. These kind of things. There's so much here that can trigger, sometimes it's going to be bad, right? They're going to see things which really concern them. Okay, my client is paying me less and less, or the biggest clients don't pay me on time and I struggle to actually ever chase the payment. I'm wasting that time. These are all opportunities, all chances for them to have questions, to have requests for advice. And, you guys as well, from the advisor's point of view, you can see this stuff too. So whether you're monitoring, as I said, it's totally hands off if you want it to be. The clients can do all of this stuff themselves. But we can also, on our end, on the advisor's side of things, we can see how they're getting on. Okay, right, you've got this area that's a problem, or this area that's great, and celebrate those successes as well.
Yeah, and I think one other thing to sort of mention at this point is that, we're not sat here telling you that this is a big sort of 2-year forecast build tool. It's absolutely not that. It really is sort of the early stages of advising. It really is the early stages of understanding what's going on. Then you would use, other tools here on out. Once you've got them engaged with a system like this, once, as Rich said, they're looking at certain metrics, they're concerned, maybe they're concerned about credit control, whatever that might be. You can build out a consultancy pack, you can build out an advisory pack based on that information. This is just the first rung on the ladder. I think maybe some of you are watching this and thinking this is very different to everything else we've seen, and yeah, it probably is, because we built it out to be that way. Because we've been in this market a number of years now, and we actually know what gets clients engaged and what gets them to start talking.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, absolutely, from here on out, you would filter off into other services, you'd use other tools. Some of our partners do just use Flow, and they really like it, and they really get along well with it. But there's obviously opportunity to branch out from here. So as we're going through, if some of you are thinking this doesn't give us a 2-year forecast, no, it doesn't. It's not that kind of tool. It's literally looking at payment behavior, supplier, customer, and that kind of thing, as our sort of core metrics that we built out.
Yeah, and I think an important way to think about this is not as a kind of end goal, an end piece. It's a start of that journey. So like Danny said, it's a conversation starter. It's a way to introduce concepts. It's a way to invigorate your clients and kind of get them thinking about things which maybe they haven't considered before. And like we said, that means it's not for everyone. It's not for people who are already, if you're really well-established business, you've got your whole finance team there. They're tracking all this stuff manually. They're super on the ball with all their cash flow. They're, of course they can still use it and they might still learn something from it, but they're at a stage where, that we're kind of, they're maybe past that sort of conversation. But think of your client base. I worked in accountants, as I said, for a long time, and so many clients, they just kind of want to know that they're all right. They want to know that they're not going to run out of cash. The doors aren't going to shut on them. The lights aren't going to get turned off. And they're not maybe ready to understand all of that other stuff, or to be spending loads and loads of money on it. And as I said, those are the guys, those are the companies, the people who are going to probably benefit the most from this, who aren't yet actively engaged in managing, improving, measuring their cash flow and their finances. And that's what we're all about with this tool. So I'll quickly show you guys Flow Out, which in a lot of ways is a mirror of Flow In. This time we're looking at your bills rather than your invoices. So how much are you spending? How long do you take to pay? And where is that money going? That's what Flow Out is all about. So predicted spends based on this year, last year, and predictions for the coming months. Unpaid bills, so who do you still need to pay? Again, you can filter these in the same way as you could on Flow In. Predicted when you'll pay them based on your payment history. So, oops, we've been a bit naughty with our coffee bill. We haven't paid our coffee bill for 700 days. I think they'd probably be in trouble for that if this was real. But again, nice and quick, easy way to see where your money's going, how you're spending it, how good a client are you? Are you paying on time? No, obviously not by the looks of things. But this gives a nice, easy way. And I think from our chats with clients and from our chats with partners, they've told us the same thing. Sometimes people really focus on the money in and just ignore the money out, because, money in, I've got to get paid. I've got to collect that money. I've got to make sure that the payment comes in, and they neglect to manage their bills and their outgoing costs. So Flow In, Flow Out, using these two together in combination is really going to be the sort of steps that the clients need to take to start that ball rolling with improving things. So I'm not going to go into loads of detail here, but Flow Out, as I said, it's all about understanding your outbound cash, where your money's going, who you're paying it to, how you're paying it, and whether you're paying it on time or not. So those are the three kind of pillars of Flow. As I said, you've got your action feed, which is the news feed for your business, which gives you the top items that you need to be aware of. Now, we sync twice a day with Xero and QuickBooks. So as you're keeping your records up to date, as new things are happening in the business, new bills are being created, new invoices are going out, this will reflect that as well. So of course, it's got to stay up to date. It's got to stay current with what the client's business is doing. And we keep as up to date as possible to help them stay on the ball. So your action feed is the news feed. You've got Flow In and Out, which are the detailed deep dives into your customer and supplier experiences. And that's kind of the key parts there. It's not a huge, complicated beast of a system. It's something that's quick and easy to use. And, like we said, the idea here is that we want to formulate that kind of behavior. If I'm a client, we don't want you to spend all day in Flow. We don't want you to spend forever playing around with stuff, because we want it to be simple. So what we want from clients is that they get set up on this, and 5-10 minutes here and there, they jump in, they fire it up, they learn something. They either share that with their team and ask for help, or they bring it to you guys as an advisor and say, hey, let me talk about this thing that I've got going on, which I need some guidance with. We don't want it to take a long time. We want it to be quick and simple.
And actually, we've looked at the metrics around that, because we can see how people are using it. And actually, it's really interesting. A lot of people, I think it's something like 76% of our active users are logging in for 5 minutes in the morning. So it shows that there's habit that's being created. It shows that there's demand and people actually wanting to check. A bit like you might check, Facebook or LinkedIn or BBC Worldwide News in the morning. It's really driving a habit shift, because people are wanting to see what's going on each day. And they're wanting to jump in and understand where they sit in terms of the day-to-day running of their business and their cash management there as well.
For sure. So that's Flow. Flow is a new piece of software that is for every business out there who is ever worried about getting paid. And it's designed, as I said, to be as simple as possible. Now, Flow is the first part of the Futrli platform. So Futrli platform, as we said, is a thing that's designed to essentially solve the different experiences that businesses face that they sometimes struggle with. So the first part of that is cash flow. Everyone needs to think about cash flow. Whether you're a small business or the biggest business in the world, you need to manage cash flow. And that's why Flow comes in. The next thing that we're working on is a product called Predict, which in the same way that Flow is designed to make cash flow simple for every business, Predict is looking at forecasting and taking forecasting into an area where small businesses or inexperienced businesses can get started with it and play around with it and start to learn things about their company. So we're not currently at the stage where we can show you that, unfortunately. Little tease there, but it's something to keep an eye on. And again, we have an existing forecasting engine, a super powerful but quite complicated forecasting engine. So that's great. It's great, but it doesn't service everyone. It doesn't help those companies who aren't at that stage yet. And that's where Predict comes in. Predict, again, it's kind of democratizing this stuff. It's making it accessible, making it simple. The third one of these, the third little icon here, this is something called Playground, which will be the third part of the system. And Playground is a tool which will help businesses to understand the different variables that matter to their company. Now, you think of a modern company, someone who has all this different data flowing around, whether that's online marketing with things like Google ads or Facebook ads or LinkedIn ads or Instagram ads or all the other myriad of different things that they could be spending on. They maybe have all this data around website traffic, around conversion rates, blah, blah, blah. It could be millions, right? It could be so much stuff. Playground is a tool that helps you link these different metrics and these different sort of variables together. And it allows you to play with them and to say, right, okay, if this much spend on ads gets us this many website clicks, then if we change this variable, how's that going to impact the other? So it's again, something that we're in the early stages of. I have seen it work. It does work. But it's something that we'll certainly be bringing to the table a bit further down the line. Now, if any of these other things are of any interest to you guys or a potential interest to your clients, check out Futrli.com. There's a bit more information on those there. You can also sign up to sort of preview, beta test the newer products as well that will be coming down the line. So there's lots more. Flow is the sort of first piece of the puzzle. But as I said, we're working on a range of different things which help businesses with each of the different areas that they maybe have struggled with in the past. So that's what we're doing. That's what we'll be working hard on for the next 5, 6, 7 months. But Flow is in a stage now where it's certainly very near the end of that process. So we're getting to the stage where it's going to be available to everyone and people can start using it and testing it out.
Yeah, absolutely. And we've had accountancy partners or our first users that went out on it, and they've been using it for a few months now. So what I wanted to offer everyone on this session today is if you drop me an email, I can set you up with a free account. So I don't just mean a free action feed, I do mean a free account for one license for Flow in, Flow out and the action feed, so you can be part of that group as well. There's a few hundred of you now, so it's not a small group like we thought it would be initially. But if anyone wants to email me, my email address is Danielle, that's DANIELLE @futrli.com. I know that Tanya's going to circulate an email later. But if you want to drop me an email and get access to a free account, you absolutely can and have a play around with it. I think it's one thing seeing a system and another thing actually using it and understanding how it works. So that's something that we wanted to offer.
Yeah, and from our point of view too, you guys are the key in all of this. In how are you using it? How does it feel for you guys to use? How is the process to bring your clients on board? Like I said, we are very much at the early days stage. So there's definitely things that we can learn. There's definitely things that you guys can share with us that will help us make this better in the future. So I would strongly encourage you all to take up Danny on that offer of having a free account to play around with. And it would be great if you could share your thoughts, your views, and feedback on that too. That'd be awesome. So that's it essentially from us. Unless there's anything else, Danny, that you wanted to mention.
No. I think hopefully that's given everyone a nice rounded picture of where we are with Flow. And obviously we do have the advisor piece. So if people are looking for a traditional reporting and forecasting pack, we've got the opportunity to show you that as well. But we're trying to plug that other piece of the puzzle with Flow. So hopefully that's giving you sort of a nice end-to-end solution in place as well. But no, unless there's any questions that you have for us, Tanya, or any questions that anyone else has, we can open.
Yeah, let's pop up first off the second poll question. We'll get that one done.
Oh,
And then there are, yeah, and then there are some questions. I saw there's some stuff in chat and in Q&A. So
Cool.
the second poll, now that you've seen Flow, can you see this tool working for your client portfolio? So yes, no, or not sure. And again, you need to answer both poll questions in order to qualify for your CE credits. So we're 73% voted. Oh, we're moving up there, 84%. So we'll give this a few more seconds here, and then we can jump over to the Q&A in the chat. What's in there?
Brilliant. We'll see what we got.
All right. Okay, so let's just count down. So we'll give 5 seconds. 4, 3, 2, 1. We'll end the polls and share those results. So you got 56% say yes, and 44% are unsure. So I would bet that 44% probably want to play a little bit more.
Yeah, definitely.
And understand it.
It is a new concept, so I think you know, if it seems a little odd, if it seems a little strange, yeah, it's a brand new concept, and it's designed, you know, like we said, really to do the heavy lifting for you guys. And we had to build it out in a way that required really minimal setup, really minimal education. So yeah, great that half of you want to use it and want to get started with it, and you know, you can set your clients up for free on the action feed. And the other half of you, let me know if you've got questions. You know, just shout them out, and we can go through them.
Okay. So yeah, we've got the things in the Q&A. So I haven't touched any of these ones yet. So can you guys see them? Did you want to go through them, or did you want like?
Yeah, sure.
Okay.
So I don't know if my Zoom is.
That's okay. I can read them out then if you'd like. If you guys can't see them.
Or if Danny can get them up here, and I can. We will certainly
perfect,
try our best to answer them all.
We've got them up, and now you can see that we both sat next to each other this
Right.
way.
Yeah.
So Dominic was asking a lot of questions, which was awesome. I answered a couple of them. I answered the one about the biggest client. Dominic said, I can see biggest client can be most profitable client based on revenue and or I think Dominic asked us sort of right at the beginning of before we sort of went into the demo, and as you probably found it's not customizable in that capacity. So you really do see what we've predetermined to be what we deem to be of importance, but there's nothing that is pulling through that you can manipulate or run percentages on. It's literally sort of what's set in place.
Yeah, and as we said, this is very much early days. With software development, there's always things which we would like to do but haven't been able to do yet. So there's definitely more that we want to do with Flow, and it's not going to be something that's just once and done and finished with. This is going to be an ongoing process for sure. Now, there's a question about the link to Xero QuickBooks and how that's set up. And in order to, I can quickly kind of, again, I think I showed you briefly, but all you need to do is sign in to Xero QuickBooks to get that set up. So when we add an organization here, we choose the name and we then choose the product. Test is already there. We'll choose test 2. And this is going to prompt you to log in to your Cloud Accounting Suite. Now, when you do this, it's simply going to ask you to log in. Once you logged in, you can then choose your clients from that list, and that's all there is to the connection. Now, I'm not going to log into here because I don't have the details to share with that, but essentially that's it. You log into Xero or QuickBooks, you authorize a connection, and that's it. That's how you set it up. Now, other questions here about sort of comparing different things and stuff like that. At the moment, it's limited to those features that we've shown you so far. There are plans in the pipeline. As I said, we have, I'm sure you can imagine, we have a gigantic kind of wish list of everything that we would love to be able to bring into here. And things like comparison, benchmarking, grading different clients against each other, building more of a sort of advisor dashboard and advisor suite in here to help you guys kind of grade and rank and sort of see your clients in more of an ordered manner. It's definitely something that we would like to do in the future. but unfortunately isn't really possible at the moment. As I said, though, we are super early days. We've basically just come out of beta testing with this. So there is still a lot that we would like to do with that in the future.
Yeah, so you've got early access, which is great, but also, your feedback is absolutely paramount to us. So I think you'll find once you get into it and start using it, you'll understand exactly the functionality and how that works. But if there are things that you're thinking, oh my goodness, if it just had that one feature, that would really tile with my service offerings together, then do let us know. We're continually building and we're continually developing. But we designed this based on feedback that we've had over the last 5 years from our 1,500 or so partners. So that's why we've pulled it through the way that we have.
For sure. Now, there's a question about needing to customize a chart of accounts in order to use Flow. You do not need to customize any of that stuff at all. All that is needed to use Flow is that your client uses either Xero or QuickBooks for the moment, and that you connect them in here. There's no additional tweaking in either Xero or QuickBooks. You don't need to log into those first and mess about with them in there and set up the client in a certain way. All that is needed is that they use Xero or QuickBooks and that they have invoices and bills. And as long as you've got that, there's no additional setup, no additional messing around with customizing chart of accounts or doing any additional legwork beyond that initial setup. So let's see if we've got anything else. I think that's maybe covered.
I think we sort of have covered.
I think we've covered all those questions there. So unless there's anything else, anyone has any other bits?
No, just that Dominique's added that Futrli seems to be easy to use, quick to implement, and very affordable way to have clients learn to work with cash flow without needing any additional financial training. And it can help us with our advisory services very easily and affordably. So.
Definitely. And, from the side of things in trying, as I said, the end goal of this is that we want to help small businesses. We also want to help advisors too. So we design this to be something that works for both sides of the coin. So advisors can use it to meet their goals in terms of engaging more clients, kickstarting more conversations, having more of those real value-added discussions, but the businesses can use it too. And as I said, we give something away for free. We want businesses to start to learn about this stuff, because actually we really believe, and I'm sure a lot of you guys too, that unless you spend a little bit of time, it doesn't need to be hours, as we've seen, unless you spend a bit of time on actually understanding this stuff, you're going to really struggle to make those changes and make that improvement. So that's why we have the free action feed. That's why we give that away for free, because we actually think that if you don't get started with that and you don't, you have to see something valuable right away when you log in, right? Because we're all so quick to dismiss a product if we don't think it works in the first 5 minutes. I'm sure, I've done that myself. I'm sure we all have seen something and thought, hey, this looks rubbish, and you give up on it right away. So that's why the action feed is free. That's why there's so little work to get started, because we really want to see how people can get something valuable within the first couple of minutes. And once they do that, that's what's going to drive them to come back next week or to check it again to see where they're at. Okay, I found out this thing. I want to track that. I want to see it improve. I want to see it grow. So that's really great to hear. And yeah, again, just want to thank everybody first of all, thanks Tanya for inviting us.
Oh, thank you.
It's been our pleasure. And yeah, thanks for all listening. And thank you for all your great questions. Really appreciate it.
Perfect. So thank you everybody very much. Don't forget, we are skipping next week due to, are we skipping next week? We are skipping next week because we are in San Jose. Yes. So yeah. So will we be seeing you guys in San Jose at all, or you guys don't go to the
I would love to come. We're quite far away.
We'll start a GoFundMe. Actually, that's okay. I will be coming one of these days. My team and I don't know what year, but we will be coming to QuickBooks Connect in London. That is on our list. So I know we'll see you there.
Okay.
Yeah, absolutely. So yeah, so we're skipping next week. So we will be here the week after, however, though. So perfect. Okay, and we will see you, Danny and Rich, on Wednesday then. And have a wonderful week, everybody. Thanks, everybody.
Take care, everybody.
Bye.